My people, today, oh my goodness, look at the beauty of where I am. It's such a beautiful day in Vancouver today, my people, and I'm so happy because it's a special guest today. We're gonna do two parts of this interview. The first part in English, the second part in Kenya, Rwanda, a first on Canadian television, my people, and we're gonna be talking about this book, Rwanda's Stillborn Economy by the one and only David Himbara. One-on-one live in Vancouver, yo. This is like not internet Skype conversation. He is right here in Vancouver. My people, David, first of all, I had also read the other book that you wrote, the Economic Mirage, and I couldn't find my copy. I think somebody borrowed it because I wanted so badly for you to autograph it for me. But this one, you're going to autograph it for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
So, first question for the Canadian audience. Why is this book relevant and important? Why should people read it? Why should people know about it?
This book is important for a couple of reasons. The main one is that it's about this past 20 years of our country, where the people who are leading the country said that they would transform it from a poor country into middle income country based on knowledge. And for the past 20 years, they've been saying that they did it. So I felt that it's my responsibility to give another view, because the only view that exists is the official view.
Is what the government says.
Yes. And unfortunately, most of our researchers in Rwandan universities, they are not free
to speak out,
to tell the story.
Yes.
Because any criticism, any statement that is not in line with the government view becomes a crime. So there is no one. So it is more, I felt like it was my responsibility to basically give another account.
I see. So now you used to work for this very same government that's been lying to us.
Yes.
Is that why you left?
Yeah. Actually, okay, before I answer that, actually, I'm in a privileged position to tell this story because the Vision 2020 was launched when I started working there.
Okay.
So, but I lasted 6 years. I left in 2010. And I left somewhere twice. So 20 years later, then I should be able to say, wait a minute, this is where we started. This is where we are. Now, as to the other question, why I left? I left for the same reason that I just mentioned. People who have a different view, no matter how slightly different it is from the official from the government view, you're dead. So in 2009 is when I ran into problems because I was questioning the statistics. But the officials wanted a particular statistic. I said, no, statistics don't emerge from heavens. They emerge from assessment. So you can't come here and start ordering that we produce such and such. No. Yeah. So before you know it.
Do you think that the problem is that you're an academic? You have a PhD. PhD, my people. And then you're working with people who are just making up things. And then you're like, no, you can't just make it up. It has to be real.
Actually, you know, Louise, that PhD became such a big problem for me in Rwanda. Because whenever I challenged the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, would say, you're this peasant from Ruhengeri with a PhD from Canada. At the end of the day, you are just another peasant. So just shut up. So whenever there was an issue, that PhD, usually I was known as Himbara. But when there was a problem, then I became Dr. Himbara. So when I was going Dr. Himbara, I said, oh, here comes.
So are you saying that he thinks that the P in PhD stands for peasant?
Normally in Canada, we used to call it people with it was a permanent head damage. But in Rwanda, it's a peasant. A president who's trying to be smarter than the president.
Wow.
So who are you?
But isn't that like when you're a good leader, don't you want to be surrounded by people who are actually smarter than you? Why should that be a problem that people who are surrounding you are smarter than you? Because then you surround yourself with yes men and the result is this.
You know, Louise, I have to tell you a story. A little bit off topic, but it makes sense. When I went to work in Rwanda, my dad, who was still alive at the time, he said, Himbara, you don't belong here. You grew up there in Canada. The folks here in Rwanda, you do not understand them. So you go stay out there. So whenever you want to visit, come and visit. But I know you won't listen to me. But if you stay here, you see what happens. So I said, why, Papa? He said, you see, exactly like you said, Louise. He said, I have observed the people who are working in this government, they tell the leader what he wants to hear. And in his words, he's not a good leader. So I should have listened to my dad. I wouldn't have gone into trouble that I got. But now to answer your question, yes, absolutely. Good leaders, you see, surround themselves with people who solve problems for him. But bad leaders, in the case of Rwanda, actually, we used to joke around when people are not hearing. We would say, Mr. President, please advise us how to advise you. So it is reversed. I witnessed two things that made me decide that Rwanda wasn't for me. I witnessed physical beating of Kalisa Mupendi, who was the director of finance and chairman of Rwanda Development Bank. And then that was one thing that I saw with my own eyes.
This is the president beating him?
Yes. In front of senior officials.
Wow.
And then in the same year is when the statistics thing came. They said he wanted Rwanda to have grown by 11%. Everyone else said, okay. I said, this is not credible. From there, I said, goodbye. So now I come to why, these people who say I have a vendetta. From there, I became a target. It's not as if I had a choice. I became a target. I had to flee South Africa to come back to Canada, especially after another Rwandan was killed in South Africa, this Patrick Karegeya. But in Canada, even as we speak, the RCMP and Metropolitan Police, as well as police in Edmonton, they're investigating a case of where Rwandan government recruited people to poison me. So it's not as if I had a choice in the matter. I became a kind of activist by default. So my brothers learned into this because they were working for the same government. And I always, them two did not have any choice, because whenever there was an issue, they were asked to do something about it. One of my brothers used to tell Kagame, he said, Mr. President, Himbara is a grown man, he came by himself. We came here, we were always here by ourselves. So being related should not be an issue. We are all adults. So don't bring him into our affairs.
Is that like a profound Rwandan problem? Because anytime someone has an issue with the government, then they get the whole family. They get the whole family involved. They go after the whole family. But isn't that why the genocide happened? Because if they have an issue with one person, then they want to kill the entire family. Isn't that like a genocidal way of thinking?
Yes, and then the whole ethnic group.
Yeah.
It goes like that. We don't have time for me to give you my whole history.
Yeah.
My
This
great
interview should be so much longer.
yes, my grandfather and his brother fled Rwanda in 1896 because the people who were in power then wanted to kill them because of what my great-grandfather had done.
This particular book that you have written,
Yes.
Rwanda's stillborn middle-income economy, you have blasted not just Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, but also Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, and the World Bank.
Yes. And this man, Jim Yong Kim,
Yeah,
who was the president of the World Bank.
yeah.
Paul Kagame, we have to give him his dues.
Mm-hmm.
So he is amazing in getting what he wants by manipulating other people. He figured that he has to show the world that is actually improving the people's lives. So repression is justified by improving lives. So people gave him the benefit of the doubt. He said, oh, after all, he may be a little harsh here,
Yeah.
but he's building a country.
I don't understand how doing some good justifies oppression.
No, you see, democracy assumes debate. Democracy assumes being modest and being wrong and being corrected. But you see, when you have like a leader now who has all the answers, and he wants actually to bring everyone else to his way of thinking, then democracy cannot work. There's no room for discussion. Kagame figured this out. I give him credit. See, he realized that former leaders like Clinton, Tony Blair, they're always hunting for ways of also remaining relevant. So to be relevant, they want to remain, they are no longer leaders.
Yeah.
So they have to
pretend like they're doing something good out there in the world
to remain in the
to remain relevant.
Yes.
So now they're pretending like they're helping Rwanda, but not really.
So now Rwanda then gives them come and do what you want. So Clinton gets a great opportunity. His wife was in charge of State Department. That's United States Department of State. Then he forms his Clinton Foundation. You'll see in the book, they were able to divert $150 million from the State Department that was going to help fight HIV/AIDS in Rwanda. they diverted that into the money, into Clinton Foundation project in Rwanda. So he was in heaven. So he said that he was now using that money to make Rwanda's health sector the best in Africa, the most enviable health sector in Rwanda. But that is what you see in Kigali. You go just 1 mile away in any direction, you have up to 50,000 people, per one doctor. It started as a Vision 2020, where Rwanda would be middle-income economy. So that one is easy to measure. One middle-income economy means that you have $1,200 per head. And it means that when you're middle income, we use $3.20 per day to measure. So to see the percentage of the population that is below that, this is how we determine. So when we apply $3.20, because it says it's a middle income economy, then 80% of Rwandans are less. They are poor. So it's a disaster. So now they have come with the latest game, 2050.
It's like, it didn't work. We're going to switch the goalposts. We're not scoring. We're going to change the rules of the game while the game is happening. That's what happened.
Yes, and before you have being honest with the people and say we conducted an assessment, this is what happened. So it falls on us now to say, no, it didn't happen. You faked it and it didn't happen.
You personally, having worked with this government, the Kagame government, aren't you not afraid that some people may say that you may have a personal beef with him because, I don't know, maybe he fired you?
No. First of all, it's known that I fled.
You know, politicians, they're like, no, I resigned. No, I fired you. We don't know.
Okay, now, one of my, but that's a very, very good question. One of the things that I try to do in my books, all the data that I use, actually, the strategy in this book was to use, if I may use this expression, speaking from the horse's mouth. I use data, all data from either Rwandan government or the World Bank or the IMF. So it's not me singing this or singing that. For example, if I say that 80% of Rwandans remain poor, that is shown by the statistic. $3.20 is the definition per day, is the definition of poverty. And Rwandan own data and World Bank data shows that 80% of Rwandans live under $3.20. I will not cry about what has happened to me. All the troubles I have had to go through. I lost my careers, I lost my properties in South Africa. I had to come back again to Canada. No, I was a Canadian, but I wasn't planning to come back. But I had to come back because I lost everything. I had to restart from zero. But having said that, I am privileged because I'm Canadian. The Rwandans who have suffered like I have, who have nowhere to go, it is a disaster for them.
What is something that's important in the book that we did not talk about, that you would like to talk about so that the readers can pick up a copy and read it for themselves?
Yeah, you know, it is very clear that instead of building Rwanda and turn it into what Vision 2020 said, a more prosperous country, good education, good health, which he didn't do, but he built himself. Kagame and Rwandan Patriotic Front has built Crystal Ventures, which is worth $500 million. How does it make money? It makes money from the government contracts. So Kagame, the president, gives business to Kagame, the businessman, and has accumulated this wealth, flying in $65 million executive jets, Gulfstreams, not one but two.
So I hear he even rents the jets to himself. Why can't they just buy the jet? Why they have to rent them so that they can keep continuously making money?
Yes, because you see, he has basically he have found a way of accessing the taxpayers' money. It's a continuous flow into his empire. But that's not the worst part of it. The worst part of it is that donors have keep pumping money into the economy, into the country. But this is also aid that is not well monitored, because the people who can monitor them are also busy making money. So education is in shambles, health is in shambles, infrastructure is in shambles, electricity in shambles. But the most tragic one is education. They have changed 3 times. First, switched to English. When a country didn't speak English, there were no teachers. Then when that failed, they stopped teaching French and English, so that young people should go back to Kinyarwanda. So now they have reversed now, brought back English. So the population, the education is a disaster. And here is how I'm going to conclude. What I found it in my research really, really most pathetic. Because education is in shambles, so the World Bank last year gave money to Rwanda, $200 million to revive education. But guess what? The bulk of this $200 million is going to do. It's going to build latrines across the country, in the schools. Louise, can we forgive a president who said he was building a prosperous country 20 years ago, and just as that period is ending, he receives $200 million to build latrines in Misarane?
So only one family is rich, and then the rest of Rwanda are just so poor, and that's the situation.
Including those ministers you see. Most of Rwandan ministers you see, their wives live outside to try and make, because you see, it's a very poor country. Previously, by the way, public servants, do you know how public servants used to make a bit of money? They went into loans, build homes, and so that they can rent. But they passed a law that you can't rent your house to NGOs or to anyone. That was to force people to go and rent buildings by Kagame's companies. so even those ministers, those who can go outside, their wives, I can name quite a few.
Yeah.
And those who can't come far, they are in Uganda, in Kenya, trying to hustle.
Okay, another last question, my people. What can regular people do? Whether it's regular Canadians or regular Rwandans, what can they do to help bring positive change?
The Rwandans out here, diaspora, we can do more. We can do more, first of all, to encourage our young people here in Canada and wherever they are to excel, because they are our future generations. They are the ones who will build Rwanda. That's number one. But also, we can unite. You see, people are fragmented in little groups here and there. Our voice for positive change is not heard because it's not there. Very often, the ones who are making noise are the ones who are seen as the crazy ones, like you and I. You know, so but definitely, if we can also support somehow the people inside Rwanda that fight for change. You can see, for example, that Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza, right now, she's being tortured. Not physically, but mentally.
This was so beautiful. Thank you for writing. Thank you for having the balls. Okay.
I came here to do this interview, which I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. But I also wanted to see another travel causer, you, Louise.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to see my beautiful city, Vancouver.
Right here, right here. So beautiful.
Thank you so much for bringing me here.
Thank you.